Hello and welcome to Mr. Panza's video lesson on how we can find decimals on a number line. In the previous lesson, we talked about the concept of finding a decimal on a number line and comparing the differences between that fractions on a number line. Now that you know the difference when you see two separate different numbers on a number line, here are the two step-by-step processes that you can take depending on if you're dealing with a whole number decimal or if you're just dealing with a decimal. If it's a whole number decimal on a number line, step one is just write down the whole number, count the sticks because it's going to be in the tenths place value with decimals, and then just write that number in the tenths place value. If it's smaller decimals on a number line, the first thing you need to do are convert the small tenth numbers into hundredths by adding zeros at the end, and then count the sticks and rewrite your decimal. Let's take a look at this in action. If we look at our practice page here, which you should all have, we see the first example is just showing us whole numbers, which means we're dealing with just decimals on a number line. So that means in between this whole number 2 and this whole number 3, because it's decimals, there are definitely 10 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And that's because there has to be a tenths place value of decimals, or hundredths, or thousandths, or 10,000ths, 100,000ths, or millions. Which means in this case, all you have to do is say, well, if this is 2, then this is 2 and 1/10. And the bottom is 2 and 2/10, just by counting the sticks. 2 and 2/10, 2 and 3/10, 2 and 4/10, and that's how they came up with 2 and 5/10. Well, question 1 wants to know, what is 1/10 more than 3 and 2/10? Well, if this is 3, and over here is the whole number 4, then again, you're counting by tenths. 3 and 1/10, 3 and 2/10, 3 and 3/10. So 1/10 more would just be adding that tenth on. You have to be able to see that, even if you're subtracting. 3 and 8/10 then would be here, and 1 less than that would be 3 and 7/10. When you're dealing with the whole numbers, in this case 2, 3, and 4, you have to assume that the tenths place value is what you're dealing with. However, when you see a number line like this, and you do not have a whole number, the whole number is 0 on this number line, then you have to understand that you are dealing with a much smaller number. If you had a 100 block, you're no longer dealing with the full block. 5/10 is actually bigger than 50 hundredths, but because you are separating these into decimals, you need to take it back to step 1 again. And when you're doing step 1 with smaller decimals, you need to convert the starting and end points by adding zeros. So on the example that we were just showing you, you need to add a 0 to each of your decimals, because 5/10 equals 50 hundredths, 6/10 equals 60 hundredths, and 7/10 then equals 70 hundredths, which then allows you to add these decimal points much easier, because then you don't have to sit there and count out each little piece. You just know, well, 50 plus 1 is going to be 51 hundredths. And so on, 52 hundredths, 53 hundredths, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59 hundredths to the whole number 6, except it's not a whole number, and that's why you have to convert it to hundredths. So when you see 55 hundredths, you know that it is this stick in the middle between 50 hundredths and 60 hundredths, because if you counted 51, 52, 53, 54, 55 hundredths, 1/100th more than that is just going to be the next stick, or 56 hundredths. Same thing if you're subtracting. 1/100th less than 64 hundredths. Well, where is 64 hundredths? 61, 62, 63, 64 hundredths. 1 less than that is going to be 63 hundredths. So you have to convert them when you are not dealing with whole numbers. I hope this helps you answer the question, how do we find decimals on a number line even when they're not whole numbers?